Welcome back to Daytime Ottawa. Well, a little bit later on in the week, we're going to be doing wine and craft beer pairings when it comes to Thanksgiving dinner. But if you've never done this before, and I encourage you to do so, is doing some food pairings with a fine whiskey. And I don't have the answers, but my next guest does. Jamie Johnson is the Canadian brand ambassador for Glenfiddich. Welcome to the show, Jamie. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Jamie, for those who aren't familiar with Glenfiddich, and I'd be surprised if you're a whiskey drinker and you're not familiar with it, let's talk a little bit about the brand, first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. So 1887 was when we first started. So we've been doing this for a little while.
No kidding.
Our claim to fame right now, is we're one of the very last family-owned and operated distilleries. So this is really cool. We have a very sort of tight rope on what we're doing here at the distillery, and it goes right from the family that began the distillery back in 1887, descendants of William Grant himself, to us today. So really great to sort of have that beautiful history.
Well, and what a great role you play as the brand ambassador. Tell me how that came about and a little bit about your role.
It's not a bad job, I started in the whiskey business freelancing in 2014, having my own whiskey club, and through that had my own whiskey podcast, and things just sort of, snowballed, and I was approached by William Grant and Sons. They were looking for a brand ambassador for the Bourbon, which is our sister distillery. Started with them about 4 years ago, and moved to Glenfiddich about a year and a bit ago. So it's been such a great adventure. And what a great story to tell with these beautiful whiskeys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's dive into that and talk a little bit about pairings because, for many people that have Thanksgiving, Jamie, they have people over early, right? So that you can socialize and people like to pick at something. And I don't think there's anything better to start with than what you're going to start with. And that is a charcuterie board. Tell us about, what would be on your charcuterie board and how you would pair it with a whiskey.
Absolutely. Well, you can't go wrong with a charcuterie board. There's something sort of for everybody here, and I think it's such a nice touch to add to your dinner, to have like a welcome cocktail or something to start with. Especially if you're starting a little bit early, you might not want to get straight into the neat pours. You want to sort of start off a little cheeky. So what I would pair with our lovely charcuterie board here is a bourbon barrel old fashioned. So this is Glenfiddich 14 bourbon barrel reserve. You can batch these ahead of time. It's 3 ingredients. It's a little bit of bourbon barrel reserve, a splash of simple syrup, and some bitters. That sweetness is going to cut really, really nicely through the salty, sort of nutty bits and bobs you have here on your charcuterie board. So a really nice sort of contrast in terms of pairing.
Man, I am so hungry just looking at what's in front of you there. I mean, I love the traditional Thanksgiving dinner, and, my family actually does it throughout the year. I love a good turkey dinner. So let's talk about that main course and that traditional meal. What would you pair with that traditional meal?
So I am also a turkey traditionalist. I enjoy the classic turkey. So I think, depending on what your family does and what your traditions are, you can go a couple different ways with turkey, ham, whatever, and you cannot go wrong with Glenfiddich 12. For me, this is all about the whiskey allowing the food to come into sort of the spotlight. So it's quite fresh, easy to drink, malty, bright. There's nothing controversial about this one. This would be the one that you kind of just want to have a nice sort of palate cleanse with and let that turkey or ham or whatever it is just shine through.
Jamie, would that be a good one for people that, are new to whiskey and they're looking for something sort of as a starter? Would you recommend that one or which would you recommend?
I would definitely say the 12 because there, again, you've got all those lovely, easy, approachable flavors, the bright maltiness, and just the really lovely sort of texture and complexity to this one. So absolutely, like I said, nothing controversial about this one. This is a good door opener right into the single malt category.
All right, well, let's move on to dessert. I see you've got a traditional pumpkin pie in front of you there, but, not everyone does that, but people tend to bring some sweetness, of course, when it comes to the that course in particular. What would you pair with something that is sweet?
For me, I would go straight to the Glenfiddich 18. This is our small batch whiskey, so very close to the original classic, but it's got a lot more maturity on it, a little bit more texture. Basically, the way I describe this one is like baked apple pie in a glass. So
Wow.
all those sort of Thanksgiving-y sort of flavor cues like nutmeg and cinnamon you're going to find in this single malt. And that's going to pair perfectly with that sort of nutmeg and cinnamon that you find in your pumpkin pie, or would complement that apple pie or whatever else you decide to put in front of you. So this, for me, absolute dessert whiskey, that Glenfiddich 18.
Very nice. So now we've had our fill. We've had our charcuterie, our Thanksgiving dinner, traditional or not, a wonderful dessert, and now we're kind of sitting back and we're chatting, with friends and family. What about a digestive? What would you recommend?
Well, for me, this is the whiskey that you want to spend some time with at the end of the night. This is the Glenfiddich Grand Cru 23-year-old, so a really nice mature whiskey. There's lots going on in the glass. You've got this really nice sort of like bready, almondy, like brioche kind of creaminess with it, and you just want to sort of have it on its own. It's finished in cuvee casks, so you have this kind of celebratory vibe that goes along with it. So this is definitely the one you want to sit down with and congratulate yourself, on a job well done at the end of the night, and just sit and really enjoy.
Jamie, if I don't have a lot of time left, but just quickly in general, if I want to pair whiskey with any type of food, what are the key principles that I have to keep in mind? Excellent
question. So I think when we are talking about food pairings, we want to either complement or contrast.
Okay.
So we're looking for sweet spicy or salty sweet. So we just want to make sure that we have sort of those, or in the case of our Glenfiddich 18, a little sweet and sweet to complement each other. So it can kind of go either way. And all of these available in your local LCBO, I am sure. Jamie, thanks so much for joining us. A real pleasure having you on the show today. Pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much. Right. Have a good day. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll be right back.